The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame, with exciting fall sports prints now available.
You are watching East Tennessee's first and only year-round sports talk show on television. This is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you joining us here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Tennessee Tech game yesterday. Big win for Tennessee at homecoming, 55-0. We're going to talk a lot about big picture issues, some perspective that I think gets lost in the Twitter age. We're also going to be talking about Jones. Is he too thin-skinned? Are people being too thin-skinned to be reading lips? We'll talk about all that. Let's get right into it. First segment of our show brought to you by Tennova Healthcare. A few years ago, I tore my quad in half. At the time, I didn't know what I'd done. I thought I might have blown my leg completely off. So I went to the ER at Tennova and then took advantage of their orthopedic care after that. As always, the best care is from Tennova Healthcare. And if you look at me and say, I don't trust him on orthopedic stuff, trust another guy, Peyton Manning. He's got the spots. You've seen him around. Tennova Healthcare. All right. Want to welcome in the first round of panelists. We have 8 guys today joining me here on the show. First 4, Bob Hodge, VFL Kyler Curbison, Jimmy Himes, Chuck Cavaleris down there. All right. One segment quickly on Tennessee Tech as we blow through several topics in this segment. First of all, Jimmy, I'll start with you. We said on our Thursday show on Fox 43, then we said it on your show on 990 Friday, let's see if this team comes out with lethargy again. If there's energy and focus, it might hint that the change in the locker room this week might be a positive. They came out with energy and focus. I didn't think it looked like the same team.
I didn't either. I thought they came out, it looked like they were having fun. It looked like they were celebrating amongst themselves with every score, every big play that occurred. I thought it was interesting that they came out with Shai Tuttle's jersey, showing respect for him for being injured. But I thought that was a much different team than we had seen against South Carolina and a different team than we had seen most of the season. But I think just the element of having a good time and having fun, enjoying it, I thought that was very apparent. And I do think maybe the changes that occurred on Sunday night might have helped this team going forward.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know that you can lock down the last 3 games as wins because of that. And certainly we have to keep in mind the level of opposition. Right. But you didn't commit turnovers. You didn't come out there dragging your chin on the ground like you have in so many games this year. You didn't get off to that slow start. Your thoughts, Bob, on chemistry? It looked different.
It did look different, and it seemed like Tennessee was bouncing around a little bit more. It seemed like after a play, and I mean maybe that's a very small thing.
It's high fives and chest bumps.
It's high fives and chest bumps. High fives and chest bumps are not a horrible thing, and I think that Tennessee just looked like they were more excited to play. I think you even can sit there and they show over shots at the bench sometimes. The guys who weren't playing were more excited. Maybe it was because they were going to get in the game. They knew that Tennessee was going to try to get them in the game if they could. And it did look like such a different team, not everything, but just from that level than at South Carolina, where they did come out and drag, and after a play was over, it's like, well, I'll just lay here. I'm not going anywhere. So, yes, I thought it was totally different.
Kyler, let me ask you about one of the guys who made a difference yesterday, Jalen Hurd gone. You didn't see a lot of people come out in social media and cry about his departure. Maybe a great guy, but you didn't. Typically, if there's a problem, people don't like seeing a guy go, somebody will let it leak. Nothing happened like that. Instead, there were a lot of people falling in line behind John Kelly. Brett Kendrick said earlier in the week he's a fun guy to block for. Yesterday, he made the comment after the game. He said, well, the guys know that when I'm touching the football, I'm carrying it for them. I'm carrying it for my brothers. Yeah. Interesting comment. Your thoughts on John Kelly as an offensive lineman? You played with him. Your thoughts on Kelly as a running back?
I think it was amazing his day yesterday, having that huge run that he had. First long run since 2000 that we've had as an offense. The offense was up-tempo. It was fantastic. I mean, everything was working for him. John Kelly fits this offense perfectly. It looked like he was so mad when he scored that touchdown. The way he was running the ball, he looked so mad, and you wonder why, and it's just the way he runs. And that's why these guys love it. He puts in so much work to be out there on the field. That's why this offensive line loves blocking for him.
Guys, Chuck, your thought on John Kelly?
Well, he runs angry, and that's what everybody, was talking about it. And just being able to see that, you see somebody, what was the third string running back at one time, but talking about how Butch Jones had said he was still a leader. Define leadership as how you influence your teammates. So it has to be exciting to see that type of performance moving forward.
Anyone else?
Well, and I know that Tennessee Tech is not a real strong opponent. We get that. But he was very effective against South Carolina with, 94 yards on 14 carries. He had 89 against Texas A&M. And he's averaging 7.8 yards a carry on 40 carries. I think he's going to be productive the last 3 games.
Well, you hadn't had a minus yardage play.
That's true.
You didn't have a minus yardage play yesterday as a team, which that's a pretty impressive stat even against Tennessee
Somebody
Tech.
could have slipped.
Exactly. And on that matter, congratulations. They took a lot of grief last year, the turf crew.
Yeah.
Nobody
It looks
slipped.
great.
There you go. There was a lot of moaning about that.
It looks great.
There you go. A little love to the field crew over there. Let's talk about Josh Dobbs very briefly. Had one of his most inaccurate games against South Carolina. Had a rough, and we talked about it with Will Overstreet last week. Alabama, he got pulverized. He was under some duress against Carolina. It was like 2 minutes in the game. He had green all over his uniform. He didn't have the pressure yesterday with Tennessee Tech, and all of a sudden he's 12 of 13. I don't think you put it all on the offensive line, Kyler. But at the same time, there's no question, quarterback, when he's not feeling the pressure, is going to be more accurate. He looked fine yesterday.
I thought he looked outstanding yesterday. If you just showed clips from that game, yes, it was not a good football team. But it's hard to complete 12 out of 13 when you're not at practice and you're not being covered by anybody. And it wasn't just he completed them. He completed those passes that we've talked about so much where the guy catches it and can keep running. It wasn't behind him. He didn't have to stop and jump. It wasn't a great catch. And I think it does come back to the offensive line a little bit, not insulting your guys at all. But when he can sit back here and survey the field and make good reads, I think he's a different kind of quarterback.
Right. I mean, if the issue is he's just incredibly inaccurate, then you would think he would always be incredibly inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's like most quarterbacks. You say Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, pressure gets ramped up, they become less accurate. It's part of football. It's why guys get paid to hit them. Your thoughts on Dobbs' performance yesterday?
I think it was great. The ability of him to bounce back from the South Carolina game where he really didn't have that good of a game and then go 12 for 13 in this game and make some beautiful passes. The one over the shoulder to Malone for the touchdown, it was incredible. It was a great pass. That's what we wanted all year from him. And he really showed how the offense should work, how it should have worked versus Ohio and versus Appy State in the beginning of the year.
A lot of it with Josh seems to be footwork too, and being able to have the space to be able to move and step into his throws. I mean, when he's doing that, I think that's when he is the most accurate.
A lot of young guys got in there yesterday. I mean, they put Quentin Dormady in the second quarter. They were moving. So it was early. They were moving in some backups, not just quarterback, which is obvious to everyone. But they were putting guys in there. Marquez Callaway was one of the standouts yesterday as a punt return. May earn himself some more playing time as the season goes on. But the youth that they got in there, again, you got to take into consideration who they were playing. But it was good to see youth on the field just because you wanted to get youth on the field and not because, now we're down to our 7th defensive back.
Yeah.
So I thought that was positive, the youth that got in there. But you did still have some guys get banged up. Evan Berry had to leave the game for a while. Tyler Bird, Paul Bain with 40 seconds to go in the game. Looked like an ankle injury. 17 out of 22 starters this year have missed time. Jimmy, what's your stat that you mentioned on the show Thursday? 19 or?
With that and 17, but then you add a dismissal and a couple players quitting.
So you're up to 19, 20 guys, yeah. Unbelievable. And the thing, to put that in perspective, the injury thing, Tennessee started the year with 5 scholarship running backs. Due to attrition, injuries, they will not be able to redshirt any of those guys. All of them have now played. That's what injuries do to you. So this is something that will be felt down the road as well. It's very real. When we come back, Shazan Bradley a couple weeks ago said Jalen Hurd wasn't a running back in this system. We'll let him come out and gloat next. But we'll also talk about how Tennessee failed to use him perhaps in a way that could have kept him. I'm not talking about moving him, but could they have utilized him and the other weapons a little bit better? We'll discuss when we're back on the Sports Source.